This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh, look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream, the stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's actually very nice out, even though it's going to be boiling hot in the near future. But hey, you know, can't have it all, I suppose. Unless you're James Bond. Oh, man, James Bond has everything, doesn't he? No, not anymore. Not since they cut the world out from under him. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. How's everybody doing this morning? Hopefully better than James Bond. Who's joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning? Molly Okami with the first post. Thus, Molly Okami wins the first prize. Good morning, Molly. Good morning, Noah Essentio. Good morning, Keeverdam. And thank you, Keeverdam, for, as always, providing the links to the GoFundMes that we need to talk about. There's one missing here, though, and it's a good thing. For several weeks now, if not a couple of months now, Moonshock has been on the list. But Moonshock has asked to have his fundraiser taken off the list because Moonshock is once again in remission. So congratulations to Moonshock and his family, and glad that things are going well, and more than happy to take your fundraiser off of the list as things have resolved themselves. And hopefully for the last time, knock wood, or knock for Mike, as the case may be. But otherwise, up on the list, we have AJ, Roan Harushan, Natalie, and Angela Arriaga. So guys, please take a look at those when you have the opportunity. Donate if you are able, and if you're not, if you can, share those out on social media. That would also be appreciated. So thank you so much for that. And again, congratulations to Moonshock. Advocatus Diaboli, good morning. Somnamnul Nation, good morning. Mike R., good morning. Shadowclaw, good morning. Kiro Soldier, good morning. Tall Person, good morning. Vader 35. Good morning. SWD 40. Good morning. A Scanner Daffley. Good morning to you. The Best Remy. Good morning. Josh Hammond. Good morning to you. Who else is here? Anybody else? That's all I see. So if you happen to be lurking, if you're in the future, or if you come in late, good morning to you. So yeah, today I thought we'd fall back on some classic panel discussions, and specifically about diversity, equity, and inclusion, debunking myths and misinformation. I'm always one to be corrected. I'm always one to learn something new. Now you might ask yourself, why do you keep looking at these things? Why do you keep looking at these things? Well, because there's a few reasons. One, they keep trying so hard to convince that DEI is a pure good. And that is the first sign of snake oil. Everything has an exception. Everything has a downside. Nothing is perfect. And yet over and over again, I keep being told, no. DEI is a good thing. DEI leads to more innovative teams. DEI leads to bigger profit margins. We know this to be true because of a 2015 McKinsey study that everybody keeps referencing as proof positive that it works. Never mind that they keep cutting the budgets of these things. Never mind that there's been no actual proof that any of this actually works. Never mind that it is all effectively just affirmative action in the workplace for the most part, and inherently discriminatory and likely illegal on several. No, guys, really, it's perfect. Practically perfect in every way. So on the one hand, I'm always morbidly curious to find out, okay, is there a new spin to this? Because the longer that this goes on, they have to keep coming up with new ways of trying to convince you that it's good. On the other hand, I am still holding out hope each time I watch one of these things that someone will at least have the intellectual honesty to say, well, it's not perfect and there are downsides. It's a rare thing to hope for. Well, no, actually, I hope for it on a regular basis. It's a rare thing to witness, I should say. But I just want to see if there's any introspection on the entire process that's starting to bleed into the zeitgeist. That's what I'm also curious to see. Both what are the arguments, what are the defenses, what are they either saying or not saying to get around the obvious problems with it, and also to see is it starting? Is some doubt starting to encroach in there, or at least some pragmatism? So that's what I'm curious about. Anyway, this sucker goes on for just at half an hour. We'll go for an hour and a half in real time, unless there is some really compelling reason for me to go beyond that. And I may, if I do that, I might either do a part 2 stream or might just take care of the rest on the Discord server. And you know what? Just so I don't forget before the end of the show, I'm going to get the link ready to join the Discord server now. Can you believe that? Preparation? Preparation for a stream? Me? Actually, I do it quite often. For some reason, the Discord server is always an afterthought. I don't know why that is. It just is. But now I have it ready. So when the time comes, we're ready. Anyway, a couple more hellos, and then we'll get into it. TC, good morning. Mansquatch, good morning. John Trioxin, good morning to you. All right, so let's start off with this. We have diversity, equity, and inclusion, debunking myths and misinformation. The moderator is Ebony McMorris, White House correspondent at American Urban Radio Networks. Panelists include Mylan Dennerstein, partner at Gibson Dunn. I assume that's a law firm. Pardon me a second, I have to cough. Suddenly got a tickle in my throat for some reason, a little tickle. Second panelist is Dr. Seisha Joy Moon, PhD, Chief Diversity Officer, U.S. House of Representatives 117th and 118th Congress, and Chief Strategist for Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Wow. And lastly, Lanaya Irvin, CEO of CoQual. Don't know what that is. The only editing note I'll make is that I cut out several instances of long, silent pauses as each individual came out on stage, like nothing was said. So it might get a little choppy there in the beginning few minutes. But otherwise, I have not touched the presentation whatsoever. If you'd like to see the full presentation in its fullness, a link is in the description. All right, let's get started. I'll start off with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and we will proceed.
Office of Gibson, Dunn, and Crutcher, Mylan Dennerstein, Chief
Apparently we missed the introduction of the moderator, so I'm glad I did it.
Diversity Officer for U.S. House of Representatives 117th and 118th Congresses, and Chief Strategist for Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Dr. Seisha Joy Moon. And Global Business Executive and CEO of CoQual, a global think tank that researches workplace diversity.
Oh, she worked for a think tank that focuses on DEI. Great. That's great.
Equity and inclusion, Lanaya Irvin.
Thank you so much for coming out on this morning. This is a very important topic, but let me just start by saying this.
Please tell me it's going to be a land acknowledgement. I haven't heard a good land acknowledgement in a while now.
The reason why I'm glad we're having this conversation today on a Sunday is because today is the day many of us would be worshiping.
Oh, it was a Sunday when they did it. It's a Sunday when we do it. Oh, it's perfect timing.
Or going bedside Baptist or catching the highlights of church on Instagram.
I mean, if you say so. I don't know if that's what everybody does on a Sunday, but then, I'm just a damn Yankee.
But what dropped into my spirit as we were doing this is that many have been worshiping at the altar of white supremacy, the altar of injustice, the altar of racism. And I'm so glad that I have this amazing lit panel of women on this morning that is going to shed some light in dark places because.
Oh, man. I can already tell we're in for a treat. We are in for a treat. Worshiping at the altar of white supremacy, racism, etc. And we have this lit panel. Are you guys ready for this lit panel? Oh, boy.
I believe that there is something that happens when a woman walks through the door.
What do you believe happens when a woman walks through the door? And is that scarf that that's not one of those scarves, is it?
And baby, when it's a black woman.
Oh, well, tell me what happens when a black woman walks through the door specifically.
Right?
Right. Oh, right. Okay. Well, if we're going to do that, then I better get this ready. Right. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Right.
Of course.
Okay, maybe not that far, but close.
So let's get into this conversation just off the bat.
Uh-huh.
I want you all to define diversity, equity, and inclusion, what it is.
Oh, well, according to that lady that was interviewing Donald Trump the other day, that's all you have to say to define diversity, equity, and inclusion. You just have to say those three words, and suddenly that's exactly what it is. You know, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. It's exactly what it is. Oh, but in this case, we're going to actually go deeper. Great. I love it.
What it is not.
Oh.
And I want to just quote the Heritage Foundation that says that it does not promote racial harmony, instead may in fact be manipulative, unlicensed attempts at psychology. I'm just
DEI? Well, I mean, it is manipulative, right? It tells someone that if they have an instinct towards hiring somebody, that they have to second guess themselves and their quote unquote unconscious biases, not on the basis of someone's merit, but on the basis that, oh, am I picking this person just because I'm secretly racist or secretly sexist or something? And then you're falling all over yourself to try to make the correct choice so that the optics align with the guilt trip you've been had foisted upon you. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Heritage Foundation just on off the cuff, but in this case, they might have a point. Thank you, Fostonia. Holy cow. Ooh, there's an idea. Subtitle for the Sunday stream: From the Church of Scribes. Oh, that sounds vaguely Brotherhood of Steel or something. You know, or maybe something from like Equilibrium. I don't know if there were any scribes in Equilibrium, but that sounds like something they do. They had the what were they called? They were called paladins in Equilibrium, were they? No, it was something else. Anyway, somebody in the chat's going to remind me. But if you haven't seen the movie Equilibrium with Christian Bale from far too long ago now that I feel like a fossil, it was pretty good. Pretty good action. I think, did it come out before or concurrent to The Matrix? I think it was just before, wasn't it? Something like that. Anyway, that aside, thank you, Fostonia. And so, what were you saying? Yeah, tell me about the what DEI isn't. I want to hear what DEI isn't.
just gonna go down the line and answer that. Would
All
you,
right.
Marlon, start for me on that one?
Sure. Well, good morning. It's great to be here with
Mhm.
such a distinguished group.
Distinguished by what?
And I just want to say that hearing that quote, it makes me so sad because it's so misguided.
Okay. Why? Okay. All right. So that was the Heritage Foundation quote. Why is it misguided that DEI is effectively psychological manipulation?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is really a very basic principle about fairness and equity for all of us.
Is it? Really? Okay. Then why is there an emphasis on racial and gender discrimination primarily? Why is it that every time I hear an advocate for DEI speak, they usually assess an organization or a company or an institution first and foremost on the race and or gender of the people in charge or of the vast majority of the population of the workforce? If it really is fair for everyone, why whittle everyone down to race and gender?
And not just Black people, all people.
Oh, really? All people? Like, okay, well then why do you have to make that defense in the first place? See, this is what we're going to have to be doing throughout this entire thing. Not only me pausing for the sake of YouTube, but also like stopping for a second, thinking, okay, why is this defense necessary? Why is there a belief that DEI favors some races over others? I mean, you might disagree with it, but you have to at least concede to the belief and explain it away. So why do people think that DEI is discriminatory in favor of and against certain races.
And really, it's a choice organizations make to invest in equity and the promotion and inclusion of diverse people, and especially Black people.
Oh, especially. Okay, wait. It's for everyone, but especially. Are you even not even 10 seconds into her opening statement, and she's already contradicting herself? Can't even maintain it for longer than it takes to have a few breaths and a cough. Okay. Also, it was clerics. I just remembered it was clerics from Equilibrium. That's what they called them. It was like Gammaretron clerics or something. Whatever. They used gun kata and they were badass. Anyway.
I think what those types of organizations have done is try to use affirmative action.
Yes.
Where there's actually a racial preference for a particular group.
Demographic.
And try to turn that into that's the same thing as diversity, equity, inclusion.
It is. It is. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is just workplace affirmative action. It's not turning into it. It is. What?
Action where there's actually a racial preference for a particular group and try to turn that into that's the same thing as diversity, equity, inclusion. And it just isn't.
Why isn't it? You have to explain this now. Because now, as far as I know, I mean, sometimes these things take place and they don't end up on YouTube for years after the fact or something. But as far as I know, this took place relatively recently, at least within the last year, I think, I hope. Because if not, then I guess this would be a moot point. But granted that it has been, the argument against affirmative action, or I should say the argument for affirmative action in the Supreme Court case of 2023 was the diversity argument. The same argument, the exact same argument that is made in DEI spaces in corporate America and elsewise. So if the diversity argument failed on its face and it was used as the defense for affirmative action in the Supreme Court case, exactly as DEI is affirmative action. It's gussied up, but it's affirmative action. So if it's not actually affirmative action, then tell me why it isn't.
Affirmative action is to remedy past discrimination.
Yes. And you're telling me that DEI hasn't been over and over and over again touted as a correction for historical wrongdoings to help out underserved communities and onward. Really?
It's embedded in our laws. It's embedded in our court cases.
Well, not so much anymore. Did this take place before the Supreme Court decision? Maybe it did.
It's embedded in executive orders and in regulations. And
yes.
We'll talk a lot about that later.
Uh-huh.
But the point is diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's about us being able to have the same opportunities as other people.
How is that not addressing historical wrongdoings in that same calculus? What wasn't the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Do that just fine? I mean, that whole Title VII, Title VI thing, the thing that actually struck down affirmative action or helped to? What is wrong with the Civil Rights Act of 1964? And I'm not being sarcastic when I ask that question. If the intent of DEI is to ensure equal opportunity rather than equality of outcome, then you need to tell me what is deficient specifically in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that DEI as a policy, not as a law, but as a policy, corrects.
Seisha. So in the essence of creating acceptable and accessible spaces, I want to share that my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Oh, well, I feel so much more accessible now that you've said that.
If anybody is joining us live or...
Oh, are you going to describe yourself? Oh, please describe yourself for those of us that are visually impaired, because I really, really need to know what you look like for the sake of this completely audible conversation.
Streaming. I want to describe myself in case any...
Ah, man, it just doesn't stop. Does it?
Anybody identifies with visual difficulties. I'm a Black woman wearing a tan fedora, orange glasses, bamboo.
Tan shoes and pink shoelaces, a polka dot vest, and man, oh man, he's got tan shoes and pink shoelaces and a Panama hat with a purple hat band. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Sorry, I'm thinking back to a school play I did when I was in like 3rd grade. I don't know why that has stuck with. Isn't it weird what sticks with you over the course of your lifetime that in any other circumstance would be completely meaningless and forgettable, and yet some things are just embedded into your mind? Don't know why.
Bamboo earrings, a red lip, and a floral sundress.
Uh-huh.
A couple of things. I want to start off with where the definition came from, and I might challenge to say it's not misguided; it's quite guided.
Oh, okay. Tell me why.
It's quite intentional.
Well, of course it's intentional because it's a opposing definition. It's somebody wrote it with intention to criticize and critique DEI. Is that some kind of clapback that I should be impressed by?
The definition that the current anti-DEI movement has advanced is diversity is putting identity above merit.
It demonstrably is. And again, and I said this not too long ago, you know, people say, oh, well, Tucker Carlson says this and Charlie Kirk says this and the Heritage Foundation says, it's like, I don't listen to Tucker Carlson. I don't listen to Charlie Kirk. And that was the first time I think I'd ever heard Heritage Foundation's definition of DEI. I don't have to listen to the opponents of DEI to understand the evils of DEI. I just have to listen to its advocates. So I already know that what this lady is saying is demonstrably untrue.
By rewarding and punishing individuals based on a hierarchy of oppressor versus oppressed.
Yes.
Equity is treating all inequality as illegitimate and forcing group equalization through inequality of outcomes.
Yes.
And inclusion is restricting the range of oppressing discourse and excluding white Christian conservative men.
Well, straight white males. I don't know how much of a religious component comes into it. You don't really hear about that often. That could be, you know, intentionally excluded because it's obviously controversial. But at the very least, at the very baseboard of it, straight white and male, if you possess all of those attributes or one or more of those, you are at a disadvantage in a DEI policy or structure. Okay. As much as is possible, those 3 elements, one, the other, or all 3, are to be avoided as much as you can when it comes to hiring, promotion, recruitment, and so on. So, again, maybe the Christian thing is a more subversive one. I can't say, but certainly the top 3 are.
Direct quote. Those who do this work know that that's not the definition of DEI.
Do you, though? Do you?
In Congress.
What is the definition? Okay, you've told us what it isn't, which it most demonstrably is. But okay, what is the correct definition? Let me back up a little bit because she was about to answer there.
Direct quote. Those who do this work know that that's not the definition of DEI.
Mm-hmm.
In Congress, how we define it was that diversity was the practice of ensuring that the congressional workforce represented all segments of society in which we were elected to serve.
Okay, well, taking that on for a second, how would you ensure that? And what do you mean segments of society? Because that covers a whole range of things from class to religion to, race, gender, orientation, specific cultures, and so on and so forth. By what process would you ensure success for that goal, right? Or at least attempt to reach success for that goal? You're going to have to be filtering people on the basis of surface level elements. Are you not?
That equity is making sure that the processes were fair, just, and impartial.
except they're demonstrably, there's no impartiality if you're filtering people on the basis of their demographic fit. Even if you want to broaden it out to things like class and cultural background and other things, if you are setting up a quota system, if you have set some kind of percentile standard for how you're going to populate your workforce or your congressional representation, whatever, you are going to be filtering people on what they look like, where they come from, how much money they have, and not on who they are. Right? Oh, I guess I have to push that button again, don't I? Where'd that go?
Right?
Okay.
For those communities, and then also ensuring that inclusion was acknowledging, appreciating, and applying their contributions. We also were very important about we're very intentional about putting a focus on accessibility, ensuring that the infrastructure allowed the fair and free usage of those systems also.
I mean, I've said this before, depending on the context, accessibility might be the one element they've started to try to promote more so. I mean, I don't know why they're not mentioning belonging, but okay, accessibility. What do you mean by that? Because conceivably that could mean something. Like I've talked about this before. My sister and her company had a DEIA system foisted upon her, and she was effectively forced to choose which element to participate in her company. And she chose accessibility. And this was taking place during the lockdown and everything. And so the idea of making sure that everybody in the company had the ability to access their job resources remotely was a big deal at the time. And so simply on a functional, pragmatic level, in that instance, accessibility made a lot of sense. And it had nothing to do with assessing someone on what they are, but simply allowing everyone who is in the company access to do their jobs, which is about as equal opportunity as you could get under those circumstances. So thankfully, my sister picked the one element that had no real downsides as far as discriminating or, giving somebody an artificial hand up or whatever. So depending on what they're talking about, accessibility might be just reasonable. It might also be just completely, objectively good, depending. But okay, I digress.
I think that's important because when you think about diversity and we're focusing on a lot of race talk, our dimensions of representation really expanded from everything from age all the way down to accessibility within rural communities and limited broadband access.
Again, race and age should not be considerations if you're being fair, right? I mean, depending on what position you're talking about or work necessities and so on, why even bring them up? If DEI is not about assessing people on the basis of race, why are you even bringing it up?
Any part of your life where you are underserved or underseen as it related to legislating your life.
So we just set that record straight.
What?
Linnea, would you want to comment on how you see what it is and what it ain't?
What it is and what it ain't.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because it's a shame that people are being compelled to believe that this work is in any way about exclusion.
Who's compelling me to believe that? After nearly 8 years of looking at this stuff, who's compelling me? The advocates for DEI, in their own words. This. All right. You guys have got to start acknowledging the truth and the reality of what it is you're proposing. You have to. You have to concede something. If all the panelists on this talk concede nothing to the other side's criticisms, nothing, then we have a brand new batch of just snake oil salesmen. I keep waiting for someone to come out and act in good faith when it comes to this stuff and say, DEI has good intentions, but like with all things good intentions, there can be roads to hell paved therein. So here's where it works. Here's where it doesn't. Here's where it needs to be fixed, etc. We have to get to a point where either DEI is done away with entirely, which I think is probably the smarter thing to do. The foundations for what they say they want already exist in affirmed and codified legislation. Or they need to really take a second and say, we need to have a reformation because this is bad. This is provably bad. But okay, keep going.
Because it's the exact opposite.
Right. It's the exact
To Mylan's
opposite.
point, it is very much about ensuring folks have fair access to opportunity, right?
No. Access is a new addition. Accessibility is a new. That's only come about in the last year or two. And in fact, belonging was the watchword, which you don't hear much anymore. It's kind of fading out, that whole belonging thing. It's not about access. Tell us about hiring. Tell us about recruitment. Tell us about promotion. Tell us about the C-suite and what elements have to be paid attention to in all of those levels of employment.
Right. This is about fairness in
No, it's not.
promotion processes,
Yes.
in pay,
Yeah.
and opportunity to develop in one's work environment.
On the basis of what?
We've seen a politicization of things that are very much just about ensuring people are treated more equitably.
Then why is there a racial consideration in DEI? How is that equitable?
Right? In our healthcare systems, in our schools, in our workplaces. And, I'll be honest.
I love it when people tell me that they're going to be honest. It really sets me up to believe them entirely.
The 3 letters DEI
Mm-hmm.
have become a proxy for race work.
A proxy for race work. You know what? I agree. DEI has become a proxy for race work. Tell me in what way you see it as race work.
Come on. Absolutely.
And I do think,
Yeah.
This anti-DEI, anti-woke, anti-opportunity rhetoric.
And whoa. Anti-opportunity? Anti-opportunity. Okay, well, I hadn't heard that one.
Is really just anti-Blackness.
Oh, it's anti-Blackness. Specifically anti-Blackness. Oh, okay. So if you're against DEI, you are a anti-Black proponent. That's what it is. Okay.
Veiled in a very, very strategic and thoughtful movement against our progress.
And affect
Our progress. Okay, so anyone who's against DEI is against the progress or the advancement of Black people. Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll remember that.
There was an article, I just looked at the title, and it said, here's why some white people love the myth of mediocrity, because it is easier to believe that the world is fair than to make it so.
No, the world is not fair. That's why we have laws. That's why we have the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That's why we have Title VII specifically to the point of DEI, because we know the world isn't fair. We know that people can be discriminatory. We know that businesses and business leaders can be jerkwads. That's why we have laws that mitigate and disincentivize those behaviors. And if you have proof of it, there are major consequences, conceivably, if the EEOC would actually do their jobs once in a while. But technically, if you're discriminatory in the workplace and it's provable, you're in trouble. Okay, meritocracy is great, but we also have to acknowledge the inherent fallibility of people. That's why we have laws. All right. And You have no one has yet to prove to me that DEI is not a repudiation of the very laws that are supposed to account for how unfair the world is, because DEI promotes unfairness.
DEI has been blamed on everything. When Silicon Valley collapsed, they blamed it on DEI. When daggone cargo ship hit the bridge in Baltimore, they blamed it on DEI.
Okay, well, thankfully, this has taken place after the Supreme Court decision on affirmative action then. Okay. And you guys are laughing at this. It's like, well, I mean, were there deficiencies in hiring practices that led up to these incidents at all? Would you like to take a look at what's happening at Disney right now, or Hollywood in general, when it comes to quality of output and why decisions were made for particular things in casting and writers' rooms and directors and everything else? What were the considerations in putting people in positions of authority in these places? Do you think that same thing is not and has not been occurring in major corporations and particularly sensitive and important infrastructure elements in our society? Again, let's go back to the International Air Transport Association and their 25 by 2025 initiative. You guys are fooling yourselves, or trying to fool everybody else, one of the two or both.
DEI is being wrapped up in Ukraine. DEI is being wrapped up everywhere. Somehow, and now they are even referencing that when it comes to Vice President Kamala Harris.
Oh, somehow. Okay, I didn't watch this ahead of time. I wasn't sure if this was as recent to bring up these things, or if this had happened within the time frame of Kamala Harris becoming the presidential candidate in the absence of a primary or anything. Yeah, somehow. And we talked about this, I think, on the last Sunday stream. Well, what were the elements that Joe Biden looked for in a vice presidential candidate first and foremost last time?
But before we do this, I want to just go down very quickly. I want to ground this small time that we have left in a little bit of history.
Why? I thought DEI wasn't about addressing history.
And so talk about why we are even at the spot of DEI. And
why aren't you guys defining it first? I want a success story. How many times have I said that same phrase over the years now? Give me a DEI success story. I mean, I'll take just an anecdotal one in the absence of anything at all. Give me a success story where DEI came in to an organization, a school, whatever. And before DEI was there, the numbers, the totals, the revenues, whatever, were X. And within 6 months, a year, 2 years of DEI being instituted, the numbers were at Y. And there was a significant jump. And you can draw a line directly from DEI to that improvement. Give me a success story. Give me a winning example of why I should believe DEI is inherently a good and productive thing.
I'll open that up to our panel.
Well, okay. So I think our panelists have actually said this. I mean, there is a well-organized, well-funded movement. There are 16 organizations currently whose goal is basically to take away our freedom.
DEI is your freedom? How?
And the freedoms of other people.
Okay. All right. Context. What are these organizations? What is their aim? And how is your freedom at risk?
Period. They want to roll back everything.
What do you mean by everything?
And advance themselves.
What are you talking about? Who are you talking about? What is being rolled back? Are you talking about affirmative action?
Plain and simple.
No plain and simple without examples.
It is exactly what you say. It's about I feel entitled to X and I deserve it, and somehow that means it's meritorious.
Okay, I don't know how many different ways I can say the same thing. What are you talking about?
Which is just not true. That is a myth. Everybody knows we're all human. We are all capable. We just need the opportunities.
No, we are not all capable. I am never going to be an NBA basketball star. I am not capable of being an NBA basketball star. There are some things in life that I'm just never going to do or achieve based on some demonstrable and observable realities. And that's just the way it is. Now, I could go and try out for the NBA. Nothing would have stopped me from doing so, but I would have fallen on my face. I would at least be able to say I gave it a shot, right? The opportunity would have been open to me, but the outcome would always be without doubt. So what are you talking about? Again, I ask, what specifically are you talking about?
Everybody knows we're all human. We are all capable. We just need the opportunities and a fair chance.
Wait, if we're all capable, what do you mean fair chance? There's no chance if we're all capable. It's just assumed to be true. Success is ensured. You have no idea what you're talking about, do you?
And we will succeed. So I think the history is there are at least 16 groups.
16. Name one. I need a point of reference. What are you talking about?
Since the Supreme Court's decision eliminating affirmative action, which happened a year ago, almost to today.
Okay, good. Now I have a timeline for this. Yes. And what was the Supreme Court's basis for that ruling?
In higher education. And think about that. For years, as Black people, first of all, we worked for free because we were enslaved.
You have never been a slave. No one on that stage has ever been a slave. No one within their immediate family has been a slave. What are you talking about?
And now to say that all that is done and everything is fine is just simply not reality.
Slavery is still in effect in the United States? You work for free? I mean, I could say it again, but at least I could try to make it a bit more entertaining in my presentation of it. You know, maybe a little.
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
I understand this is not a TEDx, but I really can't beat John Malkovich's exasperation when it comes to trying to state the obvious here. Okay, so the reality is slavery is still in place. Black people work for free. I guess. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Just got here. This is a talk on how to do word salad. It's a talk on how to not answer a question. And by not doing so, effectively answering the question. The premise is we're here to dispel or debunk myths and misinformation about DEI. And in fact, every time that we have one of our speakers try to defend DEI, they end up lying, or at least, at best, optimistically deceiving themselves or the audience from the reality of what it is that they're talking about. Which is really the only way you can keep perpetuating a snake oil salesmanship, is you have to continually be deceptive at the very least to your audience and perhaps to yourself. But anyway, yeah, so we're all still living under slavery and Black people work for free now, still, forever, I guess. And so when the Supreme Court brought up Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the 14th Amendment, all of these things were just nonsense, I guess.
Enslaved. And now to say that all that is done and everything is fine is just simply not reality. And eliminating the ability for schools to make up in the smallest of ways for what's been done.
Make up in the smallest of ways for what's been done. On the basis of what element again?
Is disgraceful.
No, it's not disgraceful. It's fair. It's less discriminatory than it was before. I have made this point and made this concession many times in the past. After the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was instituted, it's not as though suddenly passing that law made up for all the damage that had been done historically up to that point. And so, for a period of time, a kind of probationary period of time thereafter, making concessions for those demographics that had been targeted by previous laws and policies to be undercut in society, financially and otherwise, makes sense. That is a reasonable amount of justice for the wrongdoings of the past. But for how long do you make those concessions before those concessions become countermanded by the very laws that were put into place to stop that kind of thinking? The Supreme Court said back in the 90s, maybe 25 more years. The Supreme Court of 2023 cut it off by about 2 years and still made the same decision. At some point, everybody has to be operating under the same set of rules. Otherwise, you do not have a fairer system. And that's what happened last year. But you still want people to be assessed on their race as though they are owed something for it, for the sins of the distant past. How long do you want the demographic you just happen to be in to perpetually be victims, I guess is the question.
Candidly, it's disgraceful. And that erosion by our courts, our Supreme Court, has been going on for a long time, much longer than the Supreme Court decision in the Harvard case and the North Carolina case last year.
Such as?
I mean, if you look 10 years ago in Gratz v. Bollinger, the Supreme Court said you can't use racial preference in points with the University of Michigan.
Right. Racial preferences. I mean, if there were racial preferences at the University of Michigan in favor of white people, would you still be arguing for those to be instituted and enshrined? Or is there something particularly sinister about assessing people on the basis of their skin color for advantages, regardless of what skin color you're talking about?
So it's been coming because they are organized, because they are committed to their mission, and because they don't care. It is not a secret. You can all go online and read all about all of this.
Right. Yeah. And online, that's where all the truth is. All of what? Read about all of what?
It is very transparent. And it is...
What is it? You want it out, but you can't have it.
Very, very deliberate. I do agree with you.
It's targeted and intentional, and we've got to be targeted and intentional in the work that we do.
Okay, and what exactly are you doing
here? Sisha, I want you to put some numbers to this. When we talk about the truth of DEI, what it does and what it creates from the boardroom on down, because the numbers go against the conversation that is being put out by people like Project 2025.
Project 2025. You mean the thing that just is falling apart because the narrative that this was some kind of Donald Trump backed organization or project or initiative isn't true. You're not going to tell us that it's a Donald Trump project, is it?
We will get into.
Okay. Can I get into that first part?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. Jump in.
Get into it.
I woke up to find we were joking in the back about black jobs. So
joking in the back about black jobs. Okay.
Waking up to the headline that America may soon be subjected. That word was very powerful in this headline.
Headline from where? What publication?
To the country's first DEI president, Kamala Harris.
Well, we may be. And
There's a black woman who went to Howard.
Again, yeah, she's okay. We just had this conversation. What a black woman who went to Howard? She went to Howard and then she was black before she was Indian. Leaned on her Indian heritage. Now she's She went to Howard.
There's a woman with a JD.
Come
A woman with a JD.
There's a woman who became the attorney general.
And what was her performance like there?
The first black vice president.
Okay, you were doing well up until that point. Okay, she attended a notable college. She earned a notable degree. And then, prosecuting, yeah, okay. And then black vice president. Not just vice president, black vice president. Are you listening to yourself?
But her blackness is her ultimate disqualifier.
No, her lack of experience, her demonstrable ineptitude and incompetence is her disqualifier. She ran for president and she failed utterly. She could not even gain the support of her own home state in the primaries. If Joe Biden had not plucked her out of the edge of just oblivion politically, she would have gone on to be a professor at some school or be on the speaking circuit for the rest of her life or whatever. Okay, and the only reason that she even ended up on his radar is because she's a woman of color, and by her own performance would certainly not outshine Joe Biden on the campaign trail. Okay, she was there as progressive window dressing. And he told us all this in the years leading up to his selection of her. I did a stream on this last week with his quotes from various articles in 2019 and 2020 before he even made the decision. He had already carved out his requirements, and they were female first and foremost. Woman of color is a preference. And now, of course, Kamala Harris has kind of the inverse problem. She has to now pick a vice presidential candidate that won't outshine her on the campaign trail. And that's a tough bill to fill because nearly everybody she's looking at that I've seen is either a many years long politician or governor or someone who has achieved a level of political stature far beyond anything that she did on her own merit. See, she's not vice president inherently because of her merit. That is why it is such a weird situation to be in. So, I don't know what to tell you, but it's true.
And so when you talk about the proxy, I think that is very powerful. I know that we're talking a lot about Project 2025, but
no, the first time it's been brought up was 2 seconds ago. But okay, tell me about Project 2025. The Heritage Foundation's Project 2025, the leader of which recently had to resign. Tell me more.
I really need for people to go all the way back and research Project 1980.
Project 1980. Okay, I don't know. Tell me about Project 1980. So wait, nearly half a century ago. Okay.
This work was started before the presidency of Ronald Reagan. You had 360 scholarly organizations.
I keep hearing about these 16 organizations, 360 scholarly organizations.
Come together to create a nearly 2,000-page volume of documents for a conservative agenda in this country. Right now, what you are seeing is it come to full fruition.
A 2,000-page document from 44 years ago is now coming to full fruition. A 2,000-page document written in a time when the Cold War was still going on is now coming to fruition. Okay, what did this, and I don't know, what did this Nostradamus-like document say was going to happen by 2024?
This is an exercise that happens in 4-year intervals based on the presidency. Whether, regardless of the outcomes in November, then that project will just get stronger.
So you're telling me that the ascendance of Donald Trump in the Republican Party was a part of the plan laid out by conservatives in the 80s. You want to stop for a second and think about what you're saying? Donald Trump, a non-politician who went up against years-long and career-long politicians and wiped the floor with them to overtake the Republican Party, a figure who has been divisive, within his own party since he took the first stage, is part of the plan from 1980s conservative thinking. I mean, if you say so.
Because then they'll have another 4 years to continue to plan. Why I need for people to understand the narrative work is because it's very important. I really try to just say their words so that we know exactly, because they're not like forcing us any longer to read between the lines.
Well, exactly. And that's what I say about advocates for DEI, is that I don't have to listen to the opponents of DEI. I just have to listen to what's being said by the people who want DEI to be in place, to find all of the ridiculous and unconstitutional and unfair policy decisions embedded therein.
So Project 2025 is also supported by a three-pronged strategy. Narrative line. First, utilize both social and mass media to share stories to inspire an emotional response through public discourse and debate about the elimination of DEI-related initiatives.
That's just basic marketing and propaganda for anything, but okay.
Second line, policy. Leverage the manipulated narrative from the first line as a source of permission and persuasion to advance popular policy reforms that are legally defensible, transitioning from anti-DEI strategy from a slogan to a solution with a 70-30 split in public support to eliminate the profession.
Okay.
And right now what we are up against, just to be quite honest, is the third one, which is action line. Combine the first and second line in order to change the rules of the game to advance the elimination of DEI.
I mean, that's just basic strategy for anything in the modern day as far as propaganda or marketing. I mean, you could replace DEI with, Pepsi company's strategy to get rid of Coca-Cola or something. And
now I'm gonna let other people chime in on some of the statistical numbers, but I'm just gonna talk about Congress really quick.
Okay, talk about Congress.
That was the best job of my life.
Okay, I'm glad for you.
But it was also the hardest.
Well, sometimes the most gratifying work comes from the greatest challenges.
Appointed by Nancy Pelosi. I was retained by Kevin McCarthy, and I was asked to stay until they eliminated my office by Mike Johnson.
Oh, okay, because you were the chief diversity officer in Congress, right? No sour grapes or anything.
To survive 3 speakers in the 117th, 118th Congress is no small feat.
I hate to tell you this. Your position was there as a virtue signal. That's it. I am guessing, and I'm happy to be corrected. You were thrust into your position on the back of George Floyd.
But why I want to mention that is because a Republican and a Dem, 2 white men from Gettysburg, helped to protect me and my team.
What?
For nearly 2 years when our office was supposed to be eliminated in 6 months. 225 conservative office used our services, and 197 Democratic office used our services.
What were your services?
So to say they saw the value in DEI.
They saw the political value in DEI. Was there actually any value in DEI?
They used it every day.
Yes, to make themselves look good, to go along, to get along with the narrative that DEI had to be, with the racial reckoning and so on and so forth. And now your position has been eliminated. Tell me how Congress has suddenly taken a downturn in the absence of your services, whatever your services were.
We have more Republican offices use ODI than Dems. And so right now, I think what we're seeing, though, It's where you are positioned with the seat at the table. And
What?
so I'll let other people chime in on some statistics so I can share the stage. But I got my numbers too if you want them, sis.
What are you? There must be so many conversations that took place behind the scenes of this, or maybe other panel discussions or something. Okay.
No, I think it's important to bring out some numbers. And now go ahead.
Please tell me that some of these statistics are racially categorized.
No, I think it's it's interesting because you've outlined something that has been so thoughtfully put forth.
Okay.
Not 6 months ago, not 12 months ago. We're talking multiple election cycles, multiple stakeholder groups.
Okay. I'm still waiting for the debunking of myths here. The debunking of misinformation. All I've heard so far is anybody who says DEI is wrong is wrong. I need proof. I need examples. I need success stories.
Right? Within politics, within business, within every fabric of society more
Every fabric of society.
broadly. But it's interesting because I think that this pointed attack is actually the only way to pursue this, because there actually is sufficient research to point to the fact that diversity, equity, inclusion actually is great.
Great. What research? Can we say McKinsey? Please say McKinsey.
For business. It's great for economies, right?
No, don't ask me right. Provide evidence of this.
It makes it so that the drugs that are developed have greater health outcomes.
Wait. Wait, what? Wait. Okay, you have to qualify that one. You have got to qualify that one. How has DEI made drugs have better health outcomes? How? At least name the drug. Name the drug that is the beneficiary of a DEI policy for the public health. Please.
Right?
No. Stop with the asking.
Right?
No. This is just
Right?
No. I seriously.
Right?
No, I said
Right?
Stop. Don't ask for affirmation from the audience. Provide an example.
It's one of those things where we know that diverse boards make better decisions.
We know? How do we know? How do we know this? And if you say right.
Diverse teams drive better outcomes and
do they? Where?
innovation. There's endless. Copal, our organization, we conduct research.
Yeah.
And we have plenty of research to show that, teams with the greatest diversity pick up market share.
Oh, really? A think tank focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion has research that says that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a good thing? Well, golly gee whiz, how impartial a source you are. Give me a success story. Give me a provable from point A to point Z line between DEI and success. And if you say McKinsey from 2015 or whatever, I'm going to laugh. I'm waiting for it.
Right? It's
right.
It is not something that is a myth. It's actually been proven.
By who and what was the case example?
There's data to demonstrate that it matters.
Oh, it matters, all right. It matters when you populate your workforce, your school, whatever, on the basis of race and gender, first and foremost. It matters. Show me how it succeeds.
And I do think that...
No. It's not a think. You know, right? You have evidence of something, correct?
More of this has to do with power.
You're right. It does have to do with power. It does have to do with power. It has to do with artificially empowering people on the basis of what they look like or the demographic they fit into, first and foremost. You're correct. It's about representation, right? And not qualification. You're correct.
And who owns it? And I fundamentally believe that what we're seeing in way of backlash is last stand for those who've been power holders for generations.
Oh, and you cannot wait to get your revenge. You are just salivating at the idea that the people you hate are going to get their comeuppance. You're just dying to see that, right? You love it. You love seeing people get angry because it feels like you're winning something. Right? That's talk about main drivers for action here. Is it really for the betterment of others or for vengeance?
Demographically?
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah, right. Oh, sorry. Pardon me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
18-year-olds in this country, majority of them are people of color.
Your point being
53%, the last time I checked.
And
that's our emerging workforce. Those are our future executives. Those are our future board directors.
Probably so. I'll tell you what, I'll stipulate to the statistics. I don't know, but just for the sake of argument, sure. Okay. And their defining quality is what again, in your mind? The important element of their makeup is what again?
Creators, designers, engineers. So a lot of this backlash is just fear of inevitable change.
Right. Fear of change. Everybody who has an exception or criticism of DEI is just a fearful racist. Now, let me tell you again about how my main focus is on the race of the upcoming generation. I mean,
right?
There's been a browning of America. It's not happening. It's already happened.
An embrowning. An embrowning. There is a word for people who focus inordinately on racial elements. What is that word?
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that, because when we were going over this, the stats saying that I was looking up was saying by 2043, this nation will be predominantly a nation of color.
And how is that supposed to fundamentally change the laws and rights already established in the Civil Rights Act of 1964? Others, tell me how Title VII becomes irrelevant with demographic changes in the country's makeup. What is that supposed to mean? What do you think that is supposed to mean?
And that browning of America, we're even seeing a redefining of browning.
Mm-hmm. Can I just say one thing, ma'am?
What? What are you talking? What?
About these numbers, I do want to, because it is browning.
Browning. Okay.
And it's important to know that the disparities still exist.
You're right. Disparities will always exist.
According to Anita B., out of $450 billion in donations to nonprofit organizations in 2019, less than 4% were awarded to those led by people of color.
Oh, so again, the first category and filter by which you should decide where to put your money is on the basis of the skin color of the person running an organization. Okay.
Let's go to Black women being the highest group of entrepreneurs in this country, college educated, but yet less than 1% of venture capital firms with investments to Black women.
Educated in what? Okay, so just because someone is college educated, they should receive venture capital funding? And what is the quality of that education? I mean, I've heard for years now, especially in feminist arguments, you know, women have more, demonstrably more college degrees than men on average. And I always ask, degrees in what? I mean, I've got an English degree, right? I have a BA, right? I got a college degree. What does that qualify me for? What confidence on that basis alone could I impart to a venture capital firm for any particular business I come up with? It doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot in the grand scheme of things. So simply being college educated, simply having a college degree without further qualification says nothing. And so what? If you are a Black woman with a college degree, you are owed venture capital investment? What?
$1.6 trillion million.
Trillion million? 70 billion? What? 11 million.
$1.6 trillion in student debt, 43% more than our counterparts in the world. 6% of the national workforce, yet right now only one Black woman in a CEO position at an S&P Fortune 500 company. Or even when we look at labor force.
Name not important, by the way. I mean, I'll take her word for it. There's one Black woman in an S&P 500 CEO position. But the name of that person isn't even worth mentioning. Just her gender and race specifically. You really just have to listen to the people advocating for this stuff to get an idea of what their priorities are. Don't bother consulting the Heritage Foundation or Tucker Carlson or Charlie Kirk or Laura Ingraham or anybody else. Listen to the people that love this stuff.
64% Black women, but yet we still make 67% on the dime. And
you make 67% on the dime? Are you talking about earning?
when we think about the fact that we are currently at the largest convening in Black women in this country, right now we're having a conversation about the intersection of government and entertainment and technology and music and sports.
Oh, I thought that was a TEDx talk.
UCLA does an annual report on the Hollywood, pretty much on Hollywood diversity.
Oh, do they consult with the Gina Davis Institute by any chance?
They found that with the browning of the country, despite it, in Hollywood, less than 2 to 1 composed among theatrical film leads, less than 2 to 1 theatrical film directors, and approximately 2 to 1 for theatrical writers. But this is my favorite statistic.
Oh, what's your favorite statistic? Are you saying that Hollywood is more racist today than it was 5 years ago? Have you seen, okay, do you know what the requirements are now for an Academy Award Best Picture consideration? And have been for the last couple of years. I mean, and I mean, before they became official. Okay, don't worry. You don't have to worry. Racial discrimination in favor of the colors you particularly prefer have been and already are in place in entertainment specifically. Don't you worry.
The films that cast at that 31 to 40% BIPOC for our national parity levels, then were the highest median global box office receipts.
Wow. Wow. And that was specifically because the people cast in those roles were people of color. So the audiences are racist in favor of the colors you like, I guess.
And so DEI is a competitive advantage globally.
Okay, so people hired into positions in films on the basis of their race or demographic fit that is a good thing. But to call Kamala Harris a DEI candidate is a bad thing. Because if you say that someone is the beneficiary of DEI, well, then that's racist. But DEI and its resulting benefits are not racist. Are we getting this so far, everyone?
And not just for companies, but for our country. And not just for your success, but also for your soul.
Okay, so Kamala Harris being a DEI candidate is a good thing, right?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I just want to piggyback on what my
Please.
esteemed panelists have said.
Esteemed by whom?
And I think it's really important. I want to just give you two concrete examples.
Oh my God! What concrete examples? Be still, my heart.
Recently,
Okay,
Tractor Supply, a big company,
Tractor Supply.
and in a matter of 3 weeks, through a social media campaign, they reversed course and changed their whole DEI program and eliminated offices.
I thought we were going to get concrete examples of success stories. So you have a concrete example of a company that divested themselves of their DEI infrastructure. Are there any other, I don't know, larger companies or institutions that have done similar things in the last couple of years you'd like to mention? Anything, any companies, say from, I don't know, Silicon Valley per se? Or would you rather be more productive and give us a success story? Tell us of a company that has thrived specifically because of their DEI initiative. And I'm not talking about some consulting firm that has benefited off of the DEI craze and the racial reckoning after George Floyd. I'm talking about a company that didn't have it in the first place, instituted it, and can show one-to-one an improvement in profits and benefits on the basis of DEI. Do you have that? Or do you just have the people you don't like?
Similarly,
and what happened? What happened to that company? As a result of that, what happened to that company? I mean, it's relatively recent. So have they gone bankrupt? Do they lose all their clientele? What happened?
and this is a different perspective, the Fearless Fund.
Yeah, okay. Tell us about the Fearless. I've done quite a lot on the Fearless Fund, actually.
Which is a Black venture capital fund. And
yeah, a demonstrably racist and discriminatory organization by its own admission, and you're now affirming it. Yeah.
Foundation, founded by Black women, that funds women of color businesses.
Yeah, so it's a, again, racist and sexist organization by design.
And you heard the statistic about how less than 1% of $1 trillion goes to Black women business owners. Were sued by one of the leaders of this movement, Edward Blum, who brought the Harvard case.
Yes.
For a $20,000 grant program for Black women.
Well, the amount is irrelevant next to the forces behind the decision making. Again, I've been surprised the case has gone as far as it has, because he's not leaning on established civil rights law from the modern times. He's going back to a Civil Rights Act. I think it was 1866. I think it was some like Title 1980 or something from 1866 that has to do with contract law, which, again, not being a legal scholar, I'm still a bit unclear as to how you apply that law to a grant program. Unless, again, there's some element of the grant program that qualifies as a contract, or something else taking place there. Because, you know, as racist and discriminatory as the Fearless Fund is, if it's their money, you know, sourced from donations or otherwise, and they want to give it to somebody or some business on the basis of that business's owner's race or gender, as far as I know, that in and of itself is not an illegal act. You can make racist or discriminatory decisions with your money because it's your money. Your motivations are yours. Short of you giving money to a known criminal organization or for some other like fraudulent purpose, like I say, you could stand, I've said this before as well. You could hold $50 in your hand standing in front of two bakeries that effectively sell the same products, but say to yourself, I'm going to spend my money at that one because the owner of that business is of race X and for no other reason, which would be a racist motivation, but not an illegal act. So I'm still not quite sure how the Fearless Fund case is going to work out. I'd really love to hear the argument from the complainant as to how the 1866 law applies specifically to Fearless Fund activities. But I guess that'll come about as the case moves forward.
And I think that gets to your point about eliminating Browning. And let's just go one step.
Eliminating Browning. Eliminating Browning.
Further. Who else are they fighting about? What kind of AP class and what kind of history can be taught about Black people?
What was the main driver of the Supreme Court case for Harvard and North Carolina? They haven't brought this up, have they? What racial demographic was being discriminated against that brought about the Harvard and North Carolina cases that led to the elimination of affirmative action? They don't mention that, do they?
I mean, it's hard for me to talk about.
Why? You're on a panel to discuss it. If you're not here to discuss it, maybe you shouldn't be on the panel. And so far, why have you guys not provided a success story for DEI? It's been 20 minutes of a 30-minute presentation practically, and I have not yet heard a concrete example of DEI succeeding. I've been told it's good. I've been told that we know it's good. But you know how you debunk myths? With proof. Where's the proof?
And not get emotional and passionate, because it is my history being defined by people who don't want to accept the reality of what's happened in this particular country.
What are you talking about?
But do want to put up the 10 Commandments. And when I saw that, I said, is Jesus going to be Black? I was just wondering.
What? What the hell is this? What am I? Oh, good gravy. Okay, again, you get 4 people on a stage to defend a movement, and they can't do it. Everybody else who says this thing is wrong is just stupid, uninformed, religious nuts, etc. But everything we say is right because we know it's right. We won't tell you why it's right, but also I'm a victim because of things that happened long before I was born, and I'm still carrying the burden of, and please feel sorry for me as a successful politician, entrepreneur, CEO, whatever the titles of our speakers on the stage. They're so oppressed and so victimized, and yet. And so why are you here again? What exactly is your argument? Where is the proof to debunk the myths?
How are we about to talk about the word? I just wanted to know what the representation was going to look like.
What?
But what gets me, ladies, as we and I want to get to some Q&A.
Sure, since you guys haven't actually given anything worthwhile yet.
Is that as we talk about these conversations, for those who may be watching online or those who are watching in person,
I'm watching online and not in person.
Know this, right?
We know what?
We know this. We hear this. We know this.
What do you know? What do you know?
So it's not that the other side doesn't know either.
What the? Just.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
It is that it does not matter. That is when we get into these alternate truths. And that's why I opened up by saying they are worshiping at an altar of injustice and white supremacy.
Okay, so anyone who is on the opposite side of your position is just evil. They're not even worth discussing. They're not even worth confronting or having a conversation with, because their motivations are nothing but evil first and foremost. So you're completely right. They're completely in the wrong. Ne'er the twain shall meet, and there's no reason to have a discussion. Your side is practically perfect in every way. Harps and halos up and down. Well, I guess in that case, there really is no need to prove your case. You just know it to be true, because to be otherwise or to think otherwise is evil.
And so the only thing that can tear down that God that they have erected is bringing forth truth, which is why we...
What truth? What truth are you having on offer here to bring down the God? The God of what? White supremacy? What are you talking about?
The white supremacy. And so the only thing that can tear down that God that they have erected is bringing forth truth, which is why we need people. Even your silence can be complicit, which is what Dr. King told us.
You want to invoke? Wait. You guys have gone chapter and verse in this presentation to highlight the importance of skin color as the deciding factor in success when it comes to an organization or a country or whatever. And you want to invoke Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as a guiding light in this? Okay.
Which is why we have to leave this place and talk about what you are hearing today, and then figure out what the solutions are. The solutions first start with yourself.
The solutions to what? You have to articulate the problem first and foremost. There are organizations and individuals out there that are opposed to your position. Okay, fine. I mean, that's basically all I've heard here, right? DEI is good. There are people who are against DEI, and they are bad. Okay, so that being said, what do you suggest are the solutions to your problem?
Then in your own home, out to your community. I want to switch for a second before we open up and just say, I want to hit some concrete solutions. What is it that we need to be doing? I'm going to start with mine. I need y'all to support Black media.
Remember, guys, this is about equal opportunity for everyone, but specifically Black media now.
Especially Black owned and operated media.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, give preference to the skin colors of the proprietors of businesses. Golly gee, I seem to recall there was a kind of similar mindset that was pervasive in this country, in some ways under law, way back in the olden days. God, what was that like, do you think? What happened? What happened to that kind of thinking, both societally and certainly under law and statute? Boy, yeah, I'm at a loss. And boy, it's so good to know that way of thinking about things, that way of assessing people's quality, is still going strong.
Because when I hear people say, what is Vice President Kamala Harris doing? I want to know, are you actually looking at American Urban Radio Networks? Number one.
American Urban Radio Network. Oh, you mean your company? We're at 2059. Moderator, Ebony McMorris, White House correspondent at American Urban Radio Networks. Okay, well, I know where your priority is. Yeah.
At American Urban Radio Networks. Number one. Because she travels with the pool, just like the president. All of the networks are there when she does something. They have the option at the end of the day to broadcast what she does and what she does not do. And
it's true. And how much of what she has done or accomplished has been broadcast? Is it because they're choosing not to broadcast it, or because there's not much to broadcast about?
to broadcast what she does and what she does not do. And I don't see them talking about this economic opportunity tour that she has been doing. I don't see them talking about how she has been helping to create some of this bipartisan legislation that has been going forward.
Well, what bipartisan legislation are you talking about? How has she helped to create it? I mean, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'll go look up after this the Urban Radio Network for their Kamala Harris coverage. I mean, maybe they are. Maybe they actually have been trying to promote the things that she's been doing and that she's responsible for. Maybe the mainstream media just doesn't care about Kamala Harris and her accomplishments or her efforts. You know, setting aside every stream I've done on Kamala Harris over the last couple of years and read article after article after article from outlets that are mostly supportive of her failing over and over and over again to be convincing of her political acumen or successes. But maybe Urban Radio Networks is just the exception. I don't know. But okay, this last minute or two is an advertisement for your radio station.
That's my piece. I'm gonna leave it up to you, Molly.
Okay, we are at the hour and a half mark. There's only a few minutes left in this. I think I'm just going to take it to the end, so we might go 2 hours on this.
So I'm an optimist, and so I'm gonna something I learned at Essence this week. Somebody else used this quote, so I'm going to use it.
Sure, borrow someone. Is that kind of an appropriation? Okay.
When people build fences, we build tunnels.
That sounds like a plan for illegal immigration.
And now I'm going to add to it, we can fly over.
So if someone puts up a boundary around their property, you ignore it. Okay. I don't know if that's quite the analogy you want to use there.
We build planes too.
Yeah. And how's the quality of that going recently?
So I think we just have to dig deep.
To make that tunnel?
Not be complacent, not be accepting, and be relentless in the pursuit for justice. Because
justice of what are you even talking about? I don't mean to be so repetitive, but every time we bring up some kind of abstract complaint without an example, it drives my brain up the wall. What is the injustice you are talking about? Name one. And I'm not talking about something from 400 years ago. I'm not talking about something that happened to your ancestors. Now, what are you talking about? What is happening today that is an injustice that you feel needs to be addressed? What?
Too many people have sacrificed too much for me, and I know my panelists feel the same way, to be sitting on this stage.
Yes, a lot of people have sacrificed many things for you to be able to sit on that stage in a public forum and promote demonstrably discriminatory practices, and yet face no legal consequences because you can speak your mind. And I'm glad that you are. But they also sacrificed a lot to make sure that we have the freedoms we possess under the law. And how many people sacrificed themselves for the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which DEI absolutely countermands in its philosophy, and that you are supporting here?
And I am not about to let that change.
Oh, okay. Well, how very, very brave of you.
Listen.
Yes.
Our ancestors have been here before in multiple iterations. Stacey Abrams, very much so, like you said said earlier on the panel.
Oh, Stacey Abrams was here? Oh, I got to find the Stacey Abrams presentation.
That DEI was not created in like this lab in 2020.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. But it sure got a boost off of a dead guy.
It has been associated with every social movement in this country.
No. No.
I think right now
Since 1619. Can we take it back there?
1619. Yeah. Boy, remember DEI back in 1619? Remember, the real founding of this country was in 1619, everybody. The 1690, you don't really hear that brought up anymore. There's a reason why. Only the real diehard racists still bring up 1619 project.
Okay.
I believe this is the time to lean in. I believe that this relentless last ditch effort means because we've actually made some forward movement.
No, it's not a relentless last ditch. It's just that people are becoming more aware of it. This is the problem with a problem. DEI has been around as a concept for years and years and years and years. I only started covering it in 2016 because that was when I started my YouTube channel, 2017. It might have been 2017 when I first did my first diversity video. But yeah, no, this has been around for a long time. But it's been very subversive. It's been very gentle. And the people in charge of overseeing and prosecuting violations of law that DEI promotes and practices haven't done so. Because A, they're not given the ability to most times, the funding, the manpower, and otherwise. But B, because this stuff feeds into an ideological belief that many people in this country hold dear. And if they say otherwise, what happens? Oh, they worship at the altar of white supremacy. So many things in this world, not just this country, are driven by the fear of being called a racist or a sexist. Go back to the grooming gangs of Rotherham back in the mid-2010s. I just saw a story the other day. I forget where it was out of. Some either sheriff or former sheriff said that a area of the state or something that was overrun with gang crime should not institute a gang task force because of the racial implications that would have. And so he's recommending that they do not address organized crime in a different way than regular crime on the off chance that someone might think that this is racially motivated. So the likelihood is it'll get worse because they're scared if they do something that someone could call racist happens, that will... This is all nonsense. It's all virtue-fueled nonsense, and it's destructive, and it's demeaning, and it's regressive, I should say. It's really worrisome. It's been worrisome to me for years, which is why I keep covering it, because, like I say, don't listen to Fox News. Don't listen to the Heritage Foundation. You want to see what's really wrong with some of these systems and policies, listen to their advocates.
And so for DEI professionals, I hope that we just take advantage of this opportunity because I see opportunity right now.
And that's your driving goal here, opportunity, personal enrichment. Right. Take advantage of a crisis for your own career prospects. Okay.
Take care of ourselves in this time because
ourselves.
It is a hard time.
Yeah,
Can you double back on the opportunity part? What is the opportunity that you see at this time?
An actual pointed question from the moderator asking for specifics? Saints preserve us. Okay, yeah. Good for you. What's the answer?
I believe right now we have a real opportunity to really formalize our profession.
Formalize your profession. DEI consultancy and think tankery has been around for the last decade. Formalize? How?
I believe sometimes the skepticism makes me excited.
Sometimes the skepticism makes you excited. Why?
Because it's that's the gap that you see. All right. Right now I'm seeing times where we can build competency models.
Competency models? What does that mean?
Where I'm seeing that we can develop position descriptions on what truly is a chief diversity officer.
Wait. How does the industry not already know what a chief diversity officer is? You know, you ever hear the phrase damning with faint praise? After all this time, only now are you getting around to defining what a chief diversity officer is? It hasn't been formalized. You've been operating as a chief diversity officer in the 117th and 118th Congress under no definition of job duties? What?
That we can expand the scope of DEI from just personnel to public policy and
What?
bleed throughout the entire tentacles of your organization.
DEI hasn't been informing public policy? This is some kind of new concept? The executive order from Joe Biden that I read from 2021 is not public policy on diversity, equity, and inclusion in federal employment? What are you talking about?
I see so much opportunity right now, which is why.
Then why are you ticked off? If there's so much opportunity, if the doors aren't being closed like you keep telling us, then what are you worried about?
Shout out to Alfonso and the Global Black Economic Forum for giving us an additional 10 minutes to talk about this conversation.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Alfonso. This is great. I appreciate the fact they were given more time to talk.
Because it is important.
What is important?
But the biggest thing, I'm nonpartisan. I truly am, guys.
You are nonpartisan? You are nonpartisan. Do you know what partisan means? Here, let's look that up real quick. Partisan. Definition. Partisan, a strong supporter of a party, cause, or person. You are the furthest thing from nonpartisan. Otherwise, you'd be decrying the moderator's description of anybody on the other side as simply being at the altar of white supremacy. You'd at least allow for the possibility that the other side has a legitimate complaint. You are not nonpartisan.
I really am. But I need for people to vote. And I need you to vote in your best interest and the best interest of your community.
Okay, so if I vote against DEI because in the best interest of my community, we're not assessing people on the basis of their race and giving opportunities to people, not on the basis of their qualifications, first and foremost. What would you say I am? How would you describe a person that would say such a thing? I'd be curious to know if you're truly nonpartisan.
I'm going to give y'all two quick things just to remember. And again, I'm nonpartisan, but I'm just going to state some facts.
Okay, every time you say it doesn't make it more true.
The vice president was here yesterday.
Oh, was she? Okay.
It's not just the principal and the politician, it's who's behind them.
Okay.
The vice president has one of the most diverse offices in the history of the vice presidency.
Yeah, and how has that office been operating since its inception? And again, I don't have to go to Fox News or Tucker Carlson for this. I go to CNN. CNN told us about how her office has been operating since its inception. And it was a diverse office back then, too. Uh-huh. Okay, now, notice she said the most diverse, not the most experienced, not the most battle-tested, not the most informed or educated or politically savvy. No. The most diverse. Would you like to apply anything that might even come close to merit to the office of the vice president?
She has crafted a team that looks like America.
Uh-huh. Anything of, dare I say, substantive note you'd like to bring up beside? Anything?
Leader Jeffries was here on Friday.
Okay, I guess that's it. She's got a lot of people who look a lot different, I guess.
Who, just saying, putting it out there, he will be the first Black Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, okay?
And that's the most important thing to you, isn't it? Again, there's a word for people who focus demonstrably on elevating one particular race.
And I need for people to understand, he made sure to also appoint a young lady named Tasia Jackson, who is the first Black woman to ever hold that position.
Oh, at least you gave her a name. At least there's something to identify her from the demographic writ large, but still, what's her most prominent feature? Is she there because she is qualified? And if she is, why didn't you say so?
She is the highest ranking Democratic staffer on that Hill.
And is she in that position because of her merit and experience? Or was she chosen because of her race? Do you want to say anything about her qualifications to dispel the obvious suspicion that she was put there as a token? Anything?
And so I need for you to vote.
Obviously not.
Is because you're not just voting for the politician, you're also voting for the person behind them.
You do not care about the person. You are not talking about people. You're talking about colors. You don't care about the individual. You don't care about who it is, so long as what they are makes you feel good.
Who is going to legislate our lives.
I love that. I love that. What give us something that a takeaway for people before we get to the questions as far as the action going after this?
Yeah, I think just to complement what's been shared.
Yeah, sure. Keep patting yourselves on the back for offering absolutely nothing of note.
I think there's plenty of work to do.
Well, otherwise you wouldn't have a career.
When we talk about the profession.
Yeah, and you operate a think tank specifically geared towards promoting the profession.
Those of us who are in diversity, equity, inclusion work.
Yeah.
But I think collectively as a community, there's a tremendous opportunity for us as well.
Such as?
I do believe we spend a lot of time with large companies, some who are still very much committed to this.
And then some who are not?
And internally, they're spending time with their legal counsels and others to say, hey, how do we weatherproof this work?
How do we weatherproof this work? Why is there a legal consideration? That's an interesting thing to say. Not a surprising one, knowing what I know about DEI as opposed to the law, but it's an interesting thing for her to bring up. Why do companies need to consult with their legal counsel on weatherproofing DEI? What is the legal risk? I doubt she'll clarify, but that is a very interesting off-the-cuff remark.
Right?
Sorry. Yes, right. Pardon me.
Right?
Yeah, okay.
Against this shifting social, political, legal landscape.
What legal question is at hand that they are having to address? I'm asking rhetorically. I'm not going to get an answer, but I would love to know.
And they're leaned into things such as equity and debiasing efforts.
Equity and de-biasing efforts? Has anything you guys have been talking about in this entire panel been unbiased?
Things that are universally beneficial to talent, right?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Right. Yeah. Universally beneficial to talent.
Right. Whether it's sponsorship or psychological safety, these are things that they realize that culturally it matters for everyone to have.
Everyone to have, except it's explicitly and particularly for the embrowning of America.
So it's great. We do believe that there are opportunities for institutions to continue to lean in here.
As in, you continue to believe there are institutions willing to cut you a paycheck to consult?
But I think there's an opportunity for us as a community as well. Mm-hmm. In our data, we see that, Black women are still 4 times as likely to be passed over for promotion by equally or less qualified peers.
And you're a completely unbiased source of this information, of course.
Black men are twice as likely to feel they're just being evaluated by completely different criteria altogether.
You mean like their race?
In the work environment.
Okay, I mean, I'm just guessing. Would you like to tell us what criteria you mean?
The likelihood that a Black woman will be looking for a new role in some of these large companies in the next 6 months is multiples higher than peers.
Okay, I don't have, and I'm not expecting at this point any examples or further details to clarify what she's talking about. Looking for a different role within 6 months, like moving up or what?
So we can wait around for them to see us, or collectively we could create opportunity for one another.
Okay, so like Fearless Fund doing grant programs specifically for people on the basis of their race and gender. Okay, so you want to collectivize efforts on the basis of race. You want to make racially discriminatory organizations that benefit people because of their race. Okay. Yes.
I have two questions that I want to get to very quickly, and I'll open this up to the panelists. I'll just have one person answer one and another the other question.
By all means, we got how many? We got 3 minutes left.
The first question is, do you see a possibility for DEI initiatives to become federally and locally enforced?
Well, as we looked at last week, I think it was, Joe Biden put out an executive order back in 2021. I think it was either June or July of 2021, specifically, and it was titled as such, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Federal Employment. So after a fashion, it already has been, although to what effect and to what success, I can't really say.
Well, I mean, yes, absolutely. You know, one of the top things that if Leader Jeffries is then coordinated as the speaker in January is that he will reestablish the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and he will insulate it as a part of public policy.
So you'd get your job back? Is that what you're excited for?
And I think that's just going to be a major step in the right direction when we talk about.
Well, of course you would, because that was your position and job, and conceivably he'd rehire you back, right?
Opportunity. I think what we have seen is how easily they could be dismantled, and so we're learning a lot of lessons right now on how to reestablish some of these capabilities.
I do.
Yeah, they can be easily dismantled because they are so demonstrably illegal and antithetical to the American ethos here, placing someone's race and gender above their merit. That's supposed to be what we're working away from over time, not back towards.
Be dismantled, and so we're learning a lot of lessons right now on how to reestablish some of these capabilities.
I do want to remind people that may not know that when President Biden got in office, he instructed all 95 agencies to first look at how they can go after equity within each of their departments. And
yeah, I mean, that could be conceivably the very executive order I was talking about. So, yeah, you ask a question, will DEI be enforced federally? Well, it already has been to a certain extent. And even before then, the outcomes and policies and philosophies of DEI were already being pushed in many corners of federal policy under Obama and leading up into Trump. So, and certainly, again, under Biden. So that was kind of a weird question to ask, but okay.
And they all have a plan that's on the website.
Executive Orders 13985 is
there. It is.
Come on
external.
now.
Executive Order 14035 is for internal, which was supplemented by over 15 additional DEI related executive orders.
Wow, 15 additional DEI executive orders. I didn't know that there were so many presidential fiats imposing DEI policies in the federal government. Wow, golly gee whiz. That's amazing. How has that worked out so far? And who knows what outcomes will become prevalent as a result of that over the next couple of years.
Didn't I tell you they was going to light this room up? All right. Second
What?
question. Do you see a
Did you let anybody else answer? What, you ask a question and one person answer? Okay. Not much of a panel discussion, but okay.
I tell you they was going to light this room up. All right. Second question. Do you see a possibility? Wait a minute, hold on. What does an ideal DEI workforce environment look like, and how can we companies accomplish that ideal environment for everyone?
Look like? Well, it looks like let's see. I'm going to say it looks like America, right? The population of the workforce has to look like America, but by looking like America, it can't look too white and too male. Otherwise, you've done it wrong.
Well, the ideal environment is one in which everyone's fully activated.
Everyone is fully activated. Are we synths now or something?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Pardon me.
Right.
Yeah.
They're able to bring their most unique contributions into the work environment.
What constitutes a unique contribution?
And be celebrated for those unique contributions.
Like what?
I think there's an opportunity for organizations to understand that a lot of the barriers are systemic.
Like what? This is your vocation. You are a DEI think tank. Of everyone on this panel, you should have access to a library of active examples of what it is that needs to be fixed and the success stories that resulted. Why is everything so abstract?
So, I think those of you in corporate spaces, I think the opportunity is to really just begin to look at your talent systems end to end.
Talent systems end. Look at them for what?
Because I think you debias those, it benefits everyone. Where is bias creeping into recruiting and talent acquisition, how folks are being developed, promoted?
Okay, is there not the risk of a knock-on effect of bias being introduced in that process if you are evaluating a workforce on having a problem based purely on the aesthetics of the people therein in the first place? Because what is the problem you are attempting to solve for in a company when it comes to DEI? How do you know a company has a problem that needs your services? That's what I would ask our speaker here, right? If she's saying you have to address your talent, workflow, force, whatever, how do you identify a problem where you know that it needs addressing? Now, I could speculate as to what indicates or would indicate to our speaker that a workforce has a problem in the first place, but I would love to hear from her. What solutions does she offer, and what specifically are the problems that she is attempting to solve?
Throughout an organization, if you really get at the system, then you don't require a figurehead. Only the chief diversity officer to be championing, more fair and equitable access. You don't have to have the one CEO who gets it, right? Because oftentimes we have organizations who are like, oh, we lost leadership. We don't have the same air cover. We don't have the same buy-in.
You don't have the same biased individual promoting discriminatory practices. Yes, I suppose if you make racial and gender discrimination part of the system in a company, baked into the process of hiring, promoting, recruiting, and so on, I suppose then you don't need to think about it too much. You just have to lean on policy, and I was just following orders, etc.
If you really, really focus on the actual process, the systems around which your people and culture are framed, you don't have to rely on any one man to validate our existence.
Oh, okay.
I love it. Let's give our panelists a round of applause.
Really? Okay, I'm stopping here because I think everything else after this is just some congratulatory stuff. This lady didn't get to talk at all. You asked 2 questions, and then she's just, okay. Well, there you go, everybody. That is the debunking myths and misinformation about DEI from the Global Black Economic Forum that took place sometime within the last, I'm assuming, couple of weeks or months or something. I was hoping for at least an attempt at defending DEI with actual evidence and actual examples, but this was basically just, it's our way or the highway, and anybody on the opposite side is a warmongering hate monger. And also, there's only one, you notice how there was only one race brought up in this entire thing? They talk about equal opportunity. They're talking about opportunity for everyone and so on and so forth. And yet they are particularly focused on elevating and benefiting one particular racial demographic. Now, if this had been a panel of white men effectively saying the same things here, do you think there'd be some opposition to that way of thinking? I think there would be, and rightfully so. And yet somehow I'm supposed to accept that that same way of thinking in this instance is a good thing. It's an inherent benefit. That every time they bring up a quote unquote success story of someone getting a job or someone achieving a position, their first and oftentimes only element of note is their skin color. Who they are, irrelevant. What they've done to achieve that position, if anything, doesn't matter. Just the fact that they are the correct color in that position, that's the important part. I'll take a minute here for anything you guys have to say, and then I will wrap up because I think my voice is fading on me. Faithless, they're going to be pissed when the Chinese and Latinos supplant them in their own rules. Like I can say again, what was the demographic being discriminated against in the court case against affirmative action? They didn't bring that up. They didn't bring that up at all. Let's see. Advocates Diablo, when do we get to the promised debunk? I don't know. That's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for the debunking. I was waiting for them to go down a list of the beliefs about DEI from, sure, the Heritage Foundation or someone else. Like, okay. And then them to go down the list and give examples of how that's not so. That's usually what I think of when I think of debunking a myth. You state the myth, and then you provide evidence to the contrary. We didn't get anything like that. So I don't know. Let's see. Some emulation. Circle new buzzword for Browning if this comes up in a TEDx. Yeah, it was either M-Browning of America or just a Browning of America. And they're all for it. They are really, really excited about a racial takeover of the population. Again, can you think of any other context in which such a belief might have been prevalent in our country's history, much to our collective societal chagrin now? But here it's okay. Bostonia, Scribe has hit peak cool when he makes a Faith No More reference. It's true. It's true. When I have to ask, what is it? Over and over and over again. Hard to avoid it. That's all Faith No More's fault. That really is their fault. Scattered athlete, which they will not be the beneficiary of because their percentage of the population is declining. Here's the thing: it shouldn't matter, right? The rights and the laws of fairness that we've established in this country are nonpartisan when it comes to the particular race. If you're being discriminated against on the basis of your race, regardless of the race, that's wrong. If you're being discriminated against on the basis of your gender, whichever of the two genders it is, that's wrong. If you're being discriminated against on the basis of your religion, whatever your religion is, whether it's prominent or minor, it's wrong. These things are fundamentally wrong when it comes to fairness and equal opportunity in this country. They are wrong. the racial demographics of this country could completely flip. And those ways of thinking and debating and deciding about people's quality would still be wrong. And yet here we are. Oh, well, the demographics of this country are changing. You know what? They've been changing for years. That doesn't make discriminating against someone on the basis of their race any more correct, or elevating someone on the basis of their race any more correct. But this entire panel was just elevating a race above merit, a race above even someone's name. Anyway, I've said my piece. My voice is giving out. I've gone 2 hours into this and half an hour and 5 more than I meant. Everyone, I want to thank you all for joining me. There is, of course, that link to the Discord server. If you've had more you'd like to say to me, to others, or otherwise about this or anything else that I cover, there's a link to the Discord in the chat right now. You just have to click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watched the stream, are not a robot, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is right. Just say hello, right? And I'll know that you watched the show. Beyond that, moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the GoFundMes and fundraisers pinned to the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. It's very much appreciated. Programming note, you'll certainly see me here Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the next TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk for information and entertainment, I suppose, after a fashion. Also, I should, it all depends on circumstances, but even if I'm not there, check out Midnight's Edge After Dark on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, over on the Midnight's Edge After Dark channel, where pop culture, movies, comic books, other entertainment avenues of genre culture are discussed on the regular, and I enjoy talking movies and stuff with other nerds of the like. Also, I want to advertise for my friend Mr. Black of Mr. Black Pasta. He has a new true crime channel out called Recently Criminal. I put a link up in the Discord server under Living on Borrowed Crime. Also put it up on my Twitter. He's trying to get the channel started up. He's only got, last I checked, about 92 to 95 subscribers. So if you'd like to check that out and become one of the foundationary subscribers to his new channel, talking about breaking news when it comes to true crime cases, trials, and so on, that would be helpful to him. And I'd appreciate it if you'd help him out. With that, everyone, hope you all have a good rest of your Sunday. Let me know what you thought about this in the comments below. Leave a like on the way out if you would. I hear that actually makes a difference somehow. And elsewise, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I hope the week ahead of you is a stress-free one, or at least a low-stress one. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.